It's January, and in the January box we've got lilies, Agastache and Erigeron as a lovely summer planting trio, Paperwhite daffodils and the sweetest, yummiest Sungold tomatoes. If you've got your Willowherb January box, here are your 3 steps to get it all planted up. Now I'm planting this right at the beginning of February, which is a great time to do it because we're just starting to get much more useful levels of light, and even though it still feels cold and miserable and wintry, the daylight hours start to change much more quickly from here, so we're going to start to get busy. So let's start with the lily bulbs. Now you can put these straight out into your beds or borders as long as you've got fairly free draining soil. What they don't like is to just sit in winter wet. So if you've got more waterlogged soil, you might be better with a pot. You need a nice big pot. Fill your pot leaving about 15 centimetres, about 6 inches at the top. I have filled it with a mix of John Innes No. 3 and grit. It's about 4 parts John Innes No. 3 to about 1 part grit. Lilies are hungry, but actually you could just use multi-purpose compost or multi-purpose compost mixed with a bit of grit as well. And then simply put your lily bulbs in. They'll have some nice fibrous roots on them, hopefully, so put them with the roots down, just nestle them into the compost and arrange them, you know, how you picture you want the lilies to grow when they pop up in the summer. My pot is going to go against a wall, so I'm going to put my lily bulbs towards the back of the pot. So fairly close to each other, definitely not touching each other and definitely not touching the sides of the pot. And then fill the pot. Okay, let's sow the seeds that are going to go into our summer planting trio. Get yourself a seed tray of some sort. So obviously you don't want to be buying tons of plastic, but it's well worth having some seed trays if you're planning to reuse them. Just wash them and use them again, or use what you've got. Things that you might have had some seedlings delivered in or bought from the garden centre. You need seed compost, so it will say seed compost on the bag. Put a good layer of that into your seed tray and then use anything flat just to give it a nice flat surface, because the seeds we're going to be sowing are really tiny and we want them to all sit nice and evenly. So what I'm not doing here is compressing the compost. I'm not trying to squeeze all the air out of it. I'm just making a really flat surface. And when you're happy with that, get your seeds. I've got my Agastache seeds here. They're tiny, so be prepared for that when you open up the packet. And then sow them really evenly onto the surface of the compost. And it seems almost improbable that we're going to get these beautiful plants growing out of these seeds. Exactly the same thing for the Erigeron seeds. These are famously even tinier than the Agastache seeds, but the ones you've got here have got a special coating on them, so even though they are still tiny, you can see them a bit better, which makes them a little bit easier to sow. Now just make sure your seeds have got good contact with the compost, and I don't cover these 2 seed types at all. They need light to germinate. Although you could put a really fine layer of vermiculite on the top. If your compost isn't already moist, just spray it or water from underneath so you don't dislodge the seeds. Pop a plastic bag or a clear cover over. Make sure they're labelled and then start them off indoors just to get them sprouting. As soon as you see those first green leaves pop up, get the covers off, and at that point I get them outside. They're hardy, so free up your indoor space for your next lot of seeds. The next step is the tomatoes. We're going to station sow these ones because the seeds are just that little bit bigger, and also they're F1 seeds, which means they're really precious. Modular tray is probably best for tomatoes. Again, use what you've got. Little pots are fine. Similar principle to the Agastache and the Erigeron. So seed compost into your modules, and then you're going to press either 1 or 2 seeds into each module. I just put them on the surface so I can see exactly which ones I've done, and then push them in a bit and just cover them over. Now, tomatoes do need warmth to germinate, so pop them somewhere really quite nice and warm. As soon as you see the seeds start to sprout, then get them somewhere as bright as you can. And step 3, the Paperwhite daffodils. These are such a treat and so easy to bring into flower. Get a pot that you like the look of, fill it up with some, well, bulb fibre, multi-purpose compost. It almost doesn't matter for these. They are your archetypal just add water flowers. At the top of the pot, leave the height of 1 bulb's space so that they've just got their mouths sticking out the top. Put the bulbs in. You can put them quite close together, just not touching each other and not touching the side of the pot. Fill it up with some compost, put a layer of horticultural grit on the top, give them a bit of water, and then keep them somewhere bright and cool. Outdoors against a sunny house wall is perfect, because if they're too warm, the leaves grow really strongly and it's the flowers that we're after. Although if we've forecast a really hard frost, bring them in overnight. Then when you see the flower buds start to form, bring them inside and they will flower beautifully for you.